going to start recording. That's great. Okay, so first of all, thank you everybody for making the time this morning to join us for this session to talk to you about what the Community Renewal Fund is all about, and how you can get involved in bidding for the funding. Leah is going to explain to you in a moment, when I hand over to her, all the detail that you need. We're really pleased that so many of you could join us this morning. It's really positive. And you know, the success of our bid into government as the lead authority is going to very much be dependent on the proposals that organisations like yourselves come forward with. So this really is about working together to pull together a really strong proposal from Cheshire West and Chester. Of course, there's absolutely no guarantee of the funding, and I think it's really important that I make that point quite early on this morning. Our intention is very much to put a bid forward to central government, but we know it's going to be hugely competitive nationally. And the government have prioritised the top 100 places in the country based on need. Now, Cheshire West and Chester is not in that top 100 of places. However, that doesn't stop us from bidding. And in actual fact, the government have been quite clear that they are wanting bids from both prioritised areas, but non-prioritised areas as well, so that they can look to achieve more of a balance between priority and non-priority areas. So I think that's really important to say. This is very much an opportunity to come forward with locally driven and locally focused projects. You know, this isn't top down. This is about projects and initiatives that are going to help Cheshire West and Chester communities, and Leah's going to talk to you about the different themes of the funding, and what that could mean for us and working together as organisations. The timeline is very tight. It's often the way with funding bids of this nature. So we do acknowledge that, and we do appreciate that. And again, Leah's going to talk to you about what the timeline is and what the different points in the process over the next couple of months are looking like. But we will have to submit a bid by the 18th of June. And that's not movable, not flexible. So that's the deadline that we need to work to. And like I say, Leah is going to explain how we get there and how we have planned the process, and key dates that you need to be aware of. This is sort of the sort of only opportunity, if you like, to bid for Community Renewal Fund. The government have been clear that there isn't going to be a further round of this. And I think that's largely because this is very much a precursor to what's going to replace European funding, so the UK Shared Prosperity Fund. And you know, we need to see that really as an opportunity, because what we put forward and what you know, areas put forward is going to be used to help shape and inform that UK Shared Prosperity Fund, and this is a real opportunity for us to test the market, if you like, and test the projects and initiatives, and sort of tease those out locally, which I think, you know, we need to see as an opportunity. So that's probably all I wanted to say to just introduce it. Thank you again for taking the time out this morning to join us. We really hope you find this session useful. there'll be opportunities to ask questions, and Leah's going to explain to you how that's going to work as part of her introduction. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Leah now, and hope you enjoy the session. Thank you.
That's great, Gemma. Thanks very much. And I think, as Gemma said, because there's so many of us on the call today, if you can mute yourself and switch your camera off, that would be perfect. I think we're probably used to that at the moment, given everything has been so virtual. As Gemma said, we will be trying to capture questions as we go along. If you have got a question, if you could put it in the chat function, that would be brilliant. But we'll also have some time at the end just to go through some any additional questions. If you think of something on reflection, don't worry, we will also be having an email address that you can forward any additional questions to us, and we'll aim to respond to those as quickly as possible. And as Gemma also mentioned, today's session will be recorded and it will be available on our Let's Talk Business website as soon as we've sorted all that out for you. So if you've got other colleagues that weren't able to join us this morning, there's still an opportunity to listen back to the webinar and access all the documents. So over the next hour, hopefully we might be able to get it shorter than that, but we've given ourselves an hour. We're going to kind of cover the following things, give you an overview of the UK Community Renewal Fund, the process if you wish to apply, how the bids will be assessed and prioritised, and the timeframes involved. So what is the UK Community Renewal Fund? It's a £220 million pot that the government has released, and it's really an opportunity for two things. One, to bounce back from the COVID-19 pandemic, and it's an opportunity to develop a more productive, prosperous and fair economy. And the second part, and Gemma's already touched on this, is really it's an opportunity to inform the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, which is going to be replaced in the European Structural and Investment Funds. And it's taken on board some of the comments from using those funds in the past as a way forward. And it's going to be an opportunity to support new pilots approaching new ways to meet barriers faced at a very local level. So with the ESF monies, there was very much a structured framework that was set, maybe nationally, maybe even across Europe. The plan around the UK Shared Prosperity Fund is it will be very much localised. The ultimate aim is to use it to achieve higher levels of productivity and tackle disadvantaged and local levels. And it's seen alongside all those other programmes that we may have come across, such as the Plan for Jobs and the Future High Street Funds. It has some clear objectives as a fund. One of them is very much around innovation. What can we do better, and how we can support people across the whole range of communities and across the whole of the UK. So there will be opportunities to think about whether we want to pilot things across a national border. So with colleagues in Wales, if we were looking at sort of the Mersey Alliance area. And it's also an opportunity to look at both rural and urban. So I think some of the criticisms of previous funding pots is it's been focused very much on the big cities. And with the Community Renewal Fund, it is an opportunity for all, and it is about levelling that playing field, really. It's a way to establish a new working relationship between the UK government and the places. So giving people on the ground an opportunity to shape what is available and making those decisions. It's a competitive process and there's no preset eligibility. I think with all the bids that they will be expecting to see, it's about local insight and local knowledge and really getting that flavour about how it will make an impact on the ground. The government's also keen to see how it will demonstrate a contribution to the net zero objectives or the wider environmental considerations. So really understanding how those projects work within their natural environment. So, as Jem has also mentioned, the government will prioritise those top 100 local authorities, of which we aren't one, but all areas can actually apply. And there is a stress that actually, you know, being listed as a priority place doesn't guarantee funding. So how will the funding work? There are 4 investment priorities: investment in skills, local business, communities and place, and supporting people into employment. And I'll work through those in a bit more detail on the next couple of slides. It's really about how we can align our ideas against those priorities. That's what we're looking for. And actually, if you've got a project that aligns with more than one of those priorities, then all the better, because that's seen as a really strong argument to support that project. 90% of the funding is actually revenue funding, which again is quite refreshing, because a lot of the projects and funding that's become available recently have been having a capital focus. So it is 90% revenue. And there's actually no ring fence associated with those particular priorities. So we could, as an area, have our best projects all featured within one of those investment priorities. Cheshire West and Chester will be the lead authority for the area, and we can able to support businesses of any size or sector, and we will be responsible for putting forward those bids for Cheshire West. The UK government won't accept direct bids from projects themselves. So the 4 investment priorities. The first one is around investment in skills. And that's really that work-based training element. It could involve taking on new trainees to meet new projects and getting those local people fully engaged. It could include retraining, upskilling, or reskilling the workforce. And it could be around promoting digital skills. It's really about helping to equip people with the skills they need to seize the opportunities and ensure that local communities are prosperous and productive. And it could include that link to sort of green and emerging technologies that actually a lot of our businesses, as a result of COVID, have actually tried to grapple with, and a lot of digital plans that businesses may have had that we were planning for maybe 5 years in the future have actually been brought forward, and there may be a bit of a skills gap linked to that. With all of the project ideas, they need to be clear about how they are distinct from funding that is already provided through other funding streams, and demonstrating their strategic fit. And within this one, on a local area, we do have the Accelerate project, so it would need to be something distinctive to that. The second investment priority is around investing in local business, supporting local businesses to offer jobs to local people, creating entrepreneurial ventures and innovation culture. It could be around that green and tech adoption, but it also could be helping to broker links between higher education and business to try and really develop that creativity. Enabling small businesses to grow and develop and improve their products and services. The third one is around investment in communities and place, and some of the examples here includes feasibility studies for delivering net zero and low energy projects, promoting culture-led regeneration and community development, improving green spaces and preserving local assets, and also including something around rural connectivity, which has always struggled because it's never as cost effective as serving a bigger, more urban community, but obviously that has had a negative impact on some local areas. And really, it's recognising that communities are at the core of our cultural and economic heritage and identity. And we need to maximise the opportunities to bring people together and build on what probably has started a little bit on the back of COVID, some of the really good community projects that have started there. And this area could also include things around developing our cultural and sporting facilities, such as museums, galleries, visitor attractions and other heritage assets. and retaining talent and attracting tourism. The fourth priority is around supporting people into employment, and it's really around enabling individuals to take advantage of the economic opportunities. So it's reducing barriers to work, tailoring wraparound support, multi-agency delivery and delivery of basic skills provision. And it's got to be additional to other public support such as the Kickstart scheme or the other Plan for Jobs initiatives. And it's also important that it doesn't duplicate that provision that's already available through some of our existing adult education budget or the other ESF projects that we have locally, such as Journey First. Do we have any questions at all? I'll just pause. Okay, I think we're okay. The next slide really is just to kind of outline what Cheshire West and Chester's role is as part of this fund. And each local authority, lead authority has been assigned for the place. So our role within that is to invite project proposals from a range of local applicants to appraise the projects in a consistent manner. So the government has produced application forms that we will be using, and it has produced a lot of appraisal documentation which we will be using. We're not creating a different system, we will be using the consistent way. And we will be responsible for producing a short list of schemes up to a maximum of £3 million per place to submit to the UK government. Bids received after the deadline or not via ourselves will not be considered, and the guidance makes that quite clear. The lead authority, as I said, we will be submitting that to the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government, and it's by noon on Friday, the 18th of June. We will hopefully get to hear whether they've been successful from late July 2021 onwards. There's a number of guiding principles that's been sort of outlined in part of the documents. All of the bids should align to the fund objectives, and they need to respond to issues and challenges. Projects will need to provide support evidence that there will be multiple beneficiaries, and it needs to complement that government policy and that contributes to the objectives and the outcomes of the fund. We've also been asked to encourage larger projects of £500,000 or more, and this is really to try and maximise impact and deliverability through a larger project, really. So if we have lots and lots of small ones, the impact may be lessened. All projects should consider the equality impacts and need to think about that appropriate costs that are required. And as Gemma mentioned, this funding is going to be only available for this year. So where in the past we've had some funding where there's a line that says if this is really successful, we will expect further funding in the pipeline. It's been made very clear from the outset that that's not going to be the case with this pot of money. And all of the delivery needs to be completed by the 31st of March 2022. So none of the kind of we've planned it, but we might have to slip into April. That won't be eligible, I'm afraid. And that's the overview really of oh, sorry, I think we've got a question.
Thanks, Leah. Yeah, it's Rachel Foster. I was just going to ask, just on reflecting on your previous slide, given the quick turnaround and the fact that it's revenue focused as well, it seems that this is best suited to maybe oven, I know, don't like the phrase, oven ready project partnerships, delivery structures that are in existence. So projects that we've, that groups, organisations have already been developing or evolving rather than brand new projects, given the timescale and the delivery timeline as well.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, Rachel. It's not for something that's a brand new project, although there will be that element of if you wanted to develop a feasibility plan for a project to take place later down the line, that is allowed. But I think you're absolutely right. It's something that really is almost ready to go. And, you know, or it could be a project that's running currently, but actually with a little bit more, it could do so much more. But
Right.
you need to make that distinction about what that added bit would look like, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. But thanks. So yep, the assessment criteria. There is a technical guide for deliverers and partners. So if you are thinking about putting something together, I definitely recommend you looking at that, because there is a set of gateway criteria on page 3 of that guidance, which really kind of gives you that quick checklist as to whether a project will even be considered as part of this process. And this is a summary really of some of those criteria that's part of that. So I've probably mentioned it before, it needs to link to an identified investment priority within the prospectus, not duplicate anything national or locally available or conflicting with national policy. It needs to be delivered by a legally constituted organisation that can receive public funding. And that's something worth bearing in mind. If you've not received funding in the past, it may be worth talking and working in partnership with somebody who has. Project activity is in line with subsidy control or state aid requirements, which is really about giving funding to private sector and making sure that's limited. And it will be delivered in accordance with branding requirements that they have set out within the document. And I think further branding requirements will be expected as well. So projects will be governed by a funding agreement with the local authority. And it can be a private organisation or a charity submitting a project, but they would need to demonstrate they're providing a service to benefit other organisations or individuals. And as I've mentioned, you can be part of a consortium, but you would need to identify a lead organisation to act as that lead body. One thing that is mentioned a couple of times within the assessment criteria is actually it would be really useful to show the customer journey as part of your project and how it links to those other programs. So it's really demonstrating that consideration has been made. So there's two main things the assessment will look at. One is around the deliverability, effectiveness and efficiency. Making sure everything proposed is and possibly to be delivered by the end of March, and there's some realistic milestones identified. As you'd expect within any project proposal, it's about identifying those risks and mitigating them where you can. It's demonstrating efficient mode of delivery, including value for money, which can include match or leverage. I think, you know, we've got to be clear on this one. Match funding isn't a prerequisite of this pot, but if you can demonstrate how you're bringing in match or other leverage, it will be seen as a positive and as a strength, and notice will be given it as part of that value for money. It's also, as I've mentioned before, needs to come from a constituted organisation who can accept public funding, and it needs to show an effective monitoring and evaluation strategy has been identified as part of that project. I've just spotted we've got a question from Gareth. The indication of when the funding will land, given that the bids will only be submitted in June, that's a very good point. I think at the moment, we're expecting notification at the end of July. So it's likely that funding at its earliest will probably be sort of September time, but I think we're hoping to get a bit more information on that. So as soon as that's available, we'll share that with you. And if I hadn't mentioned it before, what we'll try to do is produce a list of frequently asked questions that we get from local partners and upload that onto our website as well. Okay. The second key area that we'll be looking as part of the assessment process is strategic fit. And that's really about how does it fit with all the documents, with all the local plans, and demonstrate what that contribution looks like. You know, what research have you done? Have you used like the council plan to inform what your project's about? It's demonstrating that level of contribution to the investment priorities of the fund and the contribution to the net zero objectives that the government has. And it's really about that extent to which the project can inform that UK Shared Prosperity Fund, which we mentioned before. You know, could that project that you've got in mind be scaled up and be delivered across the country? Would we like to do it in a broader way? Could it have more beneficiaries and a wider cohort? How the project demonstrates innovation in service delivery. I think that's another key area. You know, what are you doing that's different? Why hasn't it been done in the way that you're proposing? And then the last key bit that they're looking at is around that monitoring and evaluation. And I think that kind of links to the last but one point, I think, around the Shared Prosperity Fund. Because it wants to be used as that way of informing that new pot of money, the evaluation part of it is going to be crucial. So they want to know, what is that new thing that you will be looking to deliver? Why is that being informed and how can it be grown? And part of that is that real good, strong evaluation part of it. The guidance suggests that the evaluation plan should be between 1% and 2% of an award with a minimum value of £10,000. So it's really from the offset being identified as something that's crucial. The progress will be monitored and targets and milestones will be developed. And it will be monitored by the local authority. So we will receive the money directly from government, which we will then forward to yourselves. And you know, as part of that evaluation and monitoring, we'll be accepting and looking at quantitative and qualitative data as part of that evidence. So what's the proposed bidding process? All the bidding documentation, including our due diligence checklist, we're going to make available on the CHEST, which is our long-standing procurement portal, and also on our council website. It's likely to be our Let's Talk Business website, where we have a grants and support page already set up, and we'll be making a link to our main council website to make sure that if you don't know that that website's in existence, you can link directly through. And equally, once you've completed all of the bid documents, you can submit them either via the CHEST or direct through our skills and employment email address, which is on the slide there. And we're hoping to have all the documentation up and available by Friday this week. The main documents are already available on the government website. So that's the timeline we're working to. I think we'd all like a bit longer, including ourselves. We're included in that. So today's webinar obviously is on the top. We're aiming to have all the documentation available for you to download from our local sites by the 23rd, this Friday. We'd hope for all the bids to be submitted by noon on the 28th of May. And we would hope to be able to give you some sort of notification of our appraisal decision by the 16th of June. So we're able to submit that shortlist of bids to government by noon on the 18th of June. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we will get notification of government's evaluation from the end of July. So if successful, the project delivery itself you're looking at sort of August, September. I'd probably go towards the September element to the 31st of March next year. And I've made mention to them the guidance documents that the government have shared, and that's the website on that slide, include the prospectus, the application form, the technical note for project applicants and deliverers, and the assessment criteria. And as guidance notes go, they aren't that bad. They are common sense and they're not massive. So I think even the prospectus is around a 20-page document. So they are all readily available. Our due diligence form will be uploaded onto our own website, so you'll be able to look at that. And that's really to try and get everything in place. So if we get a nod from government that we're successful, we'll be able to contract with you as soon as possible. And that is the end of the input today. So have we got any further questions? I've noticed that Claire's been responding, but are there any other questions that we have?
Leah, can you go back a slide so that the government link address is available for people to pull off all the other documents? Thanks.
Yeah.
They are quite, straightforward to read. It's been quite a, not that daunting. The only daunting thing about the whole thing has been the timescale, but they're quite straightforward documents to kind of get your head round.
I think we've got a question. Is it Gary? Is Gary? Yeah. Hi, Gary. You've got your hands up. Have you got a question?
Good morning.
Morning.
If you've got any natural consortium already in existence, I noticed obviously there's a few people have joined this morning. Have you got any ideas of people that you think you've got oven ready ideas? Do you know what they are? Do you know who's involved? How are we going to talk to each other in such a short time scale to try and pull something together?
I think it's really around testing the market at this stage. I think if people have an idea and they would like to see if we could match them up with some other organisation, you could contact us through our skills and employment email address, and we might be able to sort of match you with other people if that's something that might be appropriate. But we haven't got necessarily a particular, I think it's a group of networks, although we do work with networks across the piece, such as the Chamber or the BID groups or the Chester Voluntary Action. So there are sort of larger organisations out there, but we can help to try and broker some links if you're not part of one of those or affiliated to one of those to start those conversations.
Well, I'm the co-chair of one of them, which is the reason I'm asking.
Okay.
So obviously, from a Cheshire West Voluntary Action point of view, anybody that wants to think about a consortium, and let's all get to bed together. We've all already got the SLG, the sector leadership group, that we can talk about this. But yeah, if anybody else wants to be talking to the Cheshire West Voluntary Action about any ideas to add to that, then yeah, please contact us, either myself or I know Claire's on the call today. So yeah, Claire or myself, and let's try and move it forward. And of course, Dale is also on the call. He's the chair of our SLG group. So yeah, there's quite a few people on the call today where we could put something together quite quickly. Yeah.
Okay, that sounds great.
Yeah, thanks very much for the opportunity for the call.
Okay. Oh, I think Joe, is it Joe Garner?
Hi, yeah.
Morning, Joe.
Hiya, morning. Just the same as Gary, really, actually, because obviously there's a lot of project work going on in Winsford at the moment. So obviously I don't know who's on the call because there's a lot of us. It's whether we can actually then very quickly pull a meeting together with the Winsford group that's already running, to see actually, because obviously this is very much what we've been working on already. So it'd be interesting to see just who's in the group and whether there's a Winsford pull that we could very quickly pull this together, because there's plans in place already for apprenticeships and stuff in Winsford. So yeah, it'd be really handy to know who's on here in Winsford.
Okay. And I think we could share a list. Obviously, we couldn't share the details because we didn't ask that we could do that at the outset. But we would be able to share a list of the people who attended and the organisations. And we can also broker links for our localities team. So if you've got a particular idea within Winsford, for example, we could maybe get our locality teams to pull that group together for you.
Perfect.
I think someone else has suggested a list of participants would be very useful, so we'll be able to do that for you. Oh.
No, we're happy. It can be 6 £500,000 ones or 1 3 million partnered with another local authority. You know, it could be anything. We're not being prescriptive. This is literally testing the market, what's out there. We've no agreed.
Yeah, I think Claire's has responded to a question from Caroline, in case you've not been keeping an eye on the chat, which was to see whether we're expecting one project. As Claire's quite rightly said, you know, we would consider any projects that were coming in that had that real good strategic fit. I did sort of kind of say £500,000 upwards would be ideal. And, you know, there isn't that kind of prerequisite that we have to split our share equally across those themes. So, you know, it is a test in the market opportunity, and it's one that, you know, if you've got some ideas, you know, anything's possible.
Yeah, we don't have to put in for the full 3 million. You know, if we just wanted to submit one £500,000 bid, that's fine. We just don't know what bids we're going to get.
And we appreciate the time scale is incredibly tight. So
incredibly tight.
Yeah, we're not going to second guess what we're going to receive. Gary, have you got a follow-up question?
Yeah, just wondering, seeing as Claire seems to be answering a lot of the questions, can we you individually, Claire, and sort of talk to you about our ideas and how it fits in with you and what you're doing and what you know? Or is this?
Well, I mean, sure, any of us here will give you any, you know, we'll help in any way, yeah.
But I suppose, bear in mind, you're actually assessing our bids.
Well, I don't know that necessarily it's me. There'll be a panel convened, and there will be sort of an external component to make sure that there is. It's got to be a very fair, open, transparent process.
So I suppose the question is, we can't, in a sense, include you as part of our partners and what as part of the bid. It's got to be exclusive.
Well, the council is entitled to bid. We just have to declare that interest and stay away from the appraisal process.
So my next question has got to be, are you going to?
We're not at the moment, Matt. I don't know if the council is, because obviously there's a lot of teams here and there'll be other teams within the council. You know, we may get a culture bid from somewhere. I don't know. My team in particular is not planning on putting a bid in its own right, no.
Okay, thanks.
At this stage.
Do we have any further? Oh. So the question that Caroline's just posted in our chat function is that the project shouldn't be a project which is happening nationally, but if there are several pilot schemes running in different parts of the country, reflecting the geography need, would be okay to see how that framework works in Cheshire West. I would have thought that yes. I think it is testing something locally. So if we think that actually one of those pilots would be really good and we could potentially try and give it an opportunity within Cheshire West, and I think that would be fine. I think it has to be about schemes that are operating within your geography. Hope that's answered your question. Are there any further questions? I can't see any.
It's that 6 months delivery window is absolutely critical to think about how, you know, because you don't want to set something up where then you're just having to stop it in March, at the end of March, especially if you've got beneficiaries involved. So it's to carefully think about the sort of project that you could run in that time that will then have some impact beyond March is the best way of thinking about it. So setting up a service now that then just finishes in March, 6 months later, you know, because we know how long these things take to set up. And the government getting all their results out at the end of July will be a miracle.
Yeah.
Is that a legacy hand, Gary, or a new question?
Sorry, I didn't know I had a hand up.
It's gone now.
Okay. If we haven't got any further questions, as I've mentioned earlier, if you think of something or you want to talk to a colleague and a question comes from that, you can use our skills and employment email address, and we'll be able to try and respond to those as quickly as possible. And we'll be putting together a local Q&A as well. There is a national one available, which may also answer some of your questions. So we'll upload that onto our website as well. But if we have no further questions, I'd just like to thank you for joining us today. I know it was short notice, but it is one of those funds that you find out about and you think, actually, you know, let's just give it a go and let's see if there is some amazing projects that we can support locally. So thank you very much for your time, and we hope to be in touch. Thank you.